Welcome to Tips, the Townsend Institute podcast series, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. This podcast shares stories of leadership, coaching, and counseling experiences that have shaped the lives and careers of our guests, who then provide tips aimed toward helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Dr. Ashlie Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
Welcome back to a special Valentine's episode of the Townsend Institute podcast series. Gilbert and I welcome Dr. John back to the podcast alongside his wife of 37 years, Barbi Townsend.
What a great episode, Ashley. We hear so much of John's academic and professional success, but today's episode gives us a glimpse into John, the husband and father, experiences that undoubtedly shaped some of his research and writing over the years.
We hope you all enjoy this episode, and be sure to continue tuning in as today's episode marks the first in a new series highlighting power couples. And if you love this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment. Let's get started. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Townsend Institute podcast series. Here I am alongside my co-host Gilbert with two very special guests with us today. We have John and Barbi Townsend in the house.
Hello, hello.
We are excited.
This is going to be fun. We're going to have some good times here. We are obviously just a couple days from the love holiday, Valentine's Day. So who better to have on the podcast than our founder of our institute, Dr. John Townsend, and his wife of 37 years, his better half, Barbi. Thank you, Barbi, for joining us.
I'm honored and thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Well,
She'll be able to correct all the stuff I've been saying.
And that's really the main reason.
Right. It's an intervention.
I love the intervention time.
We are excited. Well, again, 37 years married. Congratulations. I mean, that in itself. But let's go ahead and start, though, from the very beginning. Talk to us about how it all began for the two of you.
We're going to shorten this down because it's kind of one of those stories that could go on for a while. But we both were attending E.V. Free Fullerton Church, and Chuck Swindoll was the pastor there. And John was the president of the singles group. I was just attending. I was working at Disneyland. I was teaching. I was dating a few people. So I
had to call and heard of it.
I didn't go to the singles group because it was always after the service, and usually I had to go to work at Disneyland. Anyway, a friend of mine who was also a teacher, and we worked at Disneyland together. A lot of teachers work at Disneyland. She said, "Come with me to the singles group. I want you to see what it's like. Just come with me." And I said, "Oh, okay." So they met in the gym at E.V. Free, huge gym. And there was about, 300 people in there. And so I walk in and I see this guy come to the stage. He's in a blue and white seersucker suit right out of the South. And he starts talking with a Southern accent. And I remember thinking, wow, another Southern preacher. Where are they getting all these guys? But then he starts talking. I'm really intrigued and interested, and he's funny, and he's spiritual, and he's wise.
I don't remember what the title was.
I don't remember what he said. I remember how I felt.
Trying to help her grow spiritually,
So I was impressed,
I love what you said, Barbi, because I want to capture that. You said, I can't remember what you said, John, up on stage, but you remember how he made you feel. I love that. That's huge.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about that in the Institute. It's not always what you say, but how you make people feel, right? Those relational nutrients. So, okay, so that's how you noticed him. But then, John, what happened? Was it something that night or days or weeks later? But how did you then get to Barbi and land maybe that first date?
Well, we knew each other and saw each other at various functions at the single group that, they had, different events and this sort of thing. And we found out, here's the funny thing, it's not only the spiritual part and the relational part, but we both had a very similar sense of humor. We liked the same comedians and we talked about them. And then we found out there was something going on under there with the spiritual part and the fun part and the chemistry part and the character part. All of a sudden, there were a lot of feelings there and good ones.
So we did meet that day in the back of the church at the end of the service, and there was a connection, but we both were otherwise involved. And so 2 months later, there was another event. The singles group had a luau, so I went to that with a friend. John was the MC. And that night is when everything clicked, because after he was done with his duties, he came over to talk to me. We sat down. We closed the restaurant. We talked for 5 hours about that same feeling when I saw him up there, and then all these things we had in common. We went deep. We laughed. We just hit so many levels of connection. Yeah. And then that's when he asked me out at the end.
And for some people, it's like an oven going slow, and everybody, and that's not, there's no bad or good here. But for us, it was pretty quick attraction and wanting to be having conversations with from the get-go.
Yeah. And then 2 years later, we were married. So the rest of, there's a whole stuff, whole nother timeline there, but basically 2 years later, we were married. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that was quite an amazing evening. And I just, you just feel like, wow, this is something to pursue. This is what I've been looking for.
Me too.
You took a chance, right? Because, you hadn't gone to that group before and all these things. And John, you went out to find, who Barbie was. You got married. And then John's doing this thing, and then this little book called Boundaries came out, and around 1992, it looked like, maybe after your 5-year anniversary.
Yeah.
About that, yeah.
How did that, the research, the writing of all this, how did this impact or inform, those first few years of marriage?
I would say Barbie and I have always been pretty perpetual growers. We believe in self-improvement, spiritually, emotionally, physically, the whole thing, And so as a teacher, she was really, kind of like into research about education. She's got a high level of training and all that. And so as Henry Cloud and I are working on the clinics and the radio program and all this in our books, Barbie's very interested, and she's always been my first editor and that sort of thing. So we were really engaged in it and excited about the concept of all the top parts of character structure that we talk about. But she really liked the boundaries part too. It was interesting to her. And so we'd have these late night conversations about it, and it was really stimulating.
And then that's back in the day when the computers weren't as sophisticated as now. So he would print off whatever he was writing, and I would edit and correct from a teacher standpoint. But then also it would be, conversations about what he just wrote. Mm-hmm. And then we would talk about it and kind of mull over it and, just get deep into it. Mm-hmm. And I can remember sitting in the living room and Henry coming over, and then they were talking, and
we all lived close to each other.
We all lived close at the time. And I just have a lot of really good memories of those days. And they were hunkered down writing and, bouncing ideas back and forth. And it was a very, we had both kids by then. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had both kids. We had 2 little people at home too. But it was a real exciting time because it was good material, right?
Yeah. And when you edited it, did you use the red pen?
Oh, of course I did. Back then.
That's the teacher thing.
Oh yeah, I had a whole.
He bled all over me.
I had a whole selection of different sizes of red pens. So yeah,
it was brutal, but it really helped too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that time in your marriage, because not only are you, seeing maybe some of the success of the Boundary series come to part, but like you mentioned, you're still kind of in the first few years of your marriage. You've now got these 2 young sons that you're helping to raise at the same time. Maybe talk a little bit about how the Townsend model or aspects of character structure, whether it's boundaries or something else, really played in a part of your lifestyle then, right? How were you able to integrate that, whether it was into your marriage or maybe into the raising of your sons?
Yeah, Barb and I believe in eating our own cooking. Yeah. You got to talk here, not perfectly, but we really believe in the model of attachment, separation, integration, adulthood, and all that. And so we wanted to raise our kids with a biblical model of parenting that was also scientifically approved and all that. And so very early on, because the model is developmental, we had the advantage of kind of knowing what was going on at the very first stages of, 3 months and 6 months and 12 months and up to adolescence and that sort of thing. So we tried to stay true to that. And Barb is the one that really did it more because I was traveling a lot, but she did a phenomenal job of it.
And we made the choice for me to stay home for 10 years. I'm a teacher, and that was important to us, to have me home with the kids, to be able to do the attuning, the attachment, all that really important stuff at the beginning. And that's the best choice decision we made for us. I know a lot of people choose to still work and raise kids, and that's great too. And I went back to work as soon as they were in school. So it's different ways, but we were very aligned in parenting. We both came from homes. Our parents parented us in a similar fashion. So we were already really aligned on that. But it was a growing experience too, because then real life, I'm going to use this principle, and then the kids do something and you go, oh, wait, that didn't work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you, I've gotten my red pen out a couple times with some of John's books. Let me tell you, as a wife and mother of young kids, John, I don't know about this. This isn't working right now.
On page 252, it says this didn't work.
Yeah.
What do we do?
You guys just need to read it again. It's fine.
Yeah.
So we were adapting as we were going, which gets reflected in some of his other books, as we went through, because he did boundaries with kids when we had kids that age, boundaries with teens when we had teens. So we were living the things he was writing.
I always think they are lab rats. They've forgiven us for this.
Yeah. And I tried to use the difficult conversation tool that you made the other day with my 15-year-old. And I will say, I don't think I did it 100% right. I got to go back and do this again.
We're shooting for 100% these days.
Yeah. So, but I tried it. So you were traveling quite a bit, right? I mean, you were out on the road. How did you and Barbi balance this with all the family commitments?
We had a system, and we teach the system to other folks when they ask about it.
Well, because we didn't realize how much he was going to be traveling, and it just kept growing and growing. And so we got to a point where he was gone a lot, and we sat down and he said, honey, what, let's look at the year ahead. How many nights can I do?
A big one for Matt on the big table, the whole year there to kind of get what I needed to do.
Yeah, like a real paper map. But how many nights can I be away? How many nights is the best practice to be away, and how many nights home? And we had
for dinner and for hugs and for devotions and for homework and going to bed. What's the amount of nights in a month that I need to be around to be a functional father doing the right job? And we worked it out.
And we made some hard decisions.
The coaching thing was hard.
The coaching thing was hard, and he had to say no to a lot of things and do his own theory of boundaries, say no to some really important things to put the family first.
But it worked. And the funny thing was we just loved sports, and I loved coaching the kids. But even though they got better at me than all those sports, football and basketball and soccer and
swim team and baseball.
But since I was gone on weekends so much, then I knew that my buddies, who were the other fathers, would be coaching the games themselves. But I was the guy that was there on the weekdays because I could do that. So I didn't get to see a lot of the games, but I got to always be there for practices. So we really kind of figured it worked out.
And then by the time they hit high school, when it was really important to be at the games, he was. We switched be there on the weekends for football and lacrosse and track, and go travel during the week.
Yeah, so I think there's a principle there of parenting, which is, they always say, how do you spell love, T-I-M-E? Well, it's not always true, because you can have T-I-M-E without L-O-V-E, and it's bad. But there is no, you can do this all very quickly. It does take time. And so we just truly try to commit what they needed at the best time that it would happen. And we kind of looked at the results, like, how are they in school? How's their spiritual life? How's their emotion? How are their friendships and behavior? And we kind of tweaked it to make sure there was enough of us around.
John was really good at scheduling BNO, which is Boys Night Out. He would take the boys, give me a break.
To give her a BREA.
Give me a BREA. And they would go do all these wonderful experiences together that they still talk about today. Even a walk around the block just to talk and how's life going. Those were wonderful experiences. And that was an intentional, we've got to schedule this time for John and the boys, and then for me too.
But
it was those. Like I said, they still talk about it today. How impactful those times were.
Yeah, impactful, intentional, right? That's huge. It's not the amount of time necessarily, but how you're using the time, right? If you're being intentional about it. I think that's great for the listeners to know, because we all have the same amount of time in every day and every week, but are you using it in the right ways? You talk a little bit about John traveling and kind of that vocational piece. Now, Barbi, you yourself just retired last year from a career in education. You talked about how you took time off to raise the boys when they were really little, eventually went back into education. Talk a little bit about that vocational calling for you and maybe how it helped kind of then also inform what you did in your household.
Well, I knew at age 7, God put on my heart, age 7, I wanted to be a teacher, and I never wavered from that. So that was definitely a calling. That was truly my calling. The benefit we got was that I taught at the school where our boys attended. And so I was there every day. At that time, I worked part-time, but I could be at all their events. And then, of course, I have a firsthand knowledge of what they're learning, what they need for homework. I would share that with John. And we had the inside track, what's happening at school. And then just because being a teacher, the things that we thought were important for the kids to know. And John even did some seminars at our school for the parents on boundaries with kids.
Wow.
And, we had that, although we had a few of our kids' friends. One in particular came up to our oldest son and said, "Your dad gave my mom a copy of this book called Boundaries. I don't like it."
I met him after he graduated from college, and I said, "How are you doing?" He says, "I'm still mad at you."
But so we had that happening. But so I did homework with them. I did all that. I did all that with them, projects and things. So we had a really good balance.
But I always knew I could trust that process with you. There was somebody who was, we all have our things we do. And Barbi would make sure the kids were, they knew the topics and they knew what was supposed to do how much homework. And I've just got so much trust in your competence there.
And then as they moved on to high school, then I volunteered over there. And I just said at the beginning, you're going to see me around the high school. Just know that. It won't be like at elementary school, but I'm going to be there. I'm going to stay involved. And I did. I stayed involved all the way through college because both the colleges they went to had parent councils. So I joined those too. It's like PTA for college,
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's I'm gonna have to look into volunteering more at the high school. I know my daughter would love that to just see me walking around.
It's a hard sell.
Well, it's funny because when they were freshman, sophomore year, they would, when I walked in, they'd be like this. By senior year, they don't care, like, "Hi, Mom," waving across the campus.
Junior high was the only weirdness for
Yeah, but we had good teamwork for sure.
Well, I know you've been married a few years now. And I know it hasn't all been unicorns and rainbows. So what do you think maybe there's a struggle that you had to overcome together looking back? Is there anything different you might have done as you were raising your kids and all the busyness?
Well, we had some struggles with the kids like everybody. I'm going to say one thing that I'm glad we did. We had a group of other parents that were like-minded, other Christian parents. It was kind of our tribe. And we, as a group, it takes a village kind of a thing. We could lean on each other. We took turns, taking the kids places and having the same values and boundaries and, attachment and all that. And that was essential.
Because we knew those folks would be saying what we would say.
Yeah.
We would be saying those folks would say.
We, of course, were looked at as the more strict parents, but later a lot of
strict and not cool.
Yeah. But later they thanked us for that.
Early curfews, strict and not cool.
And anyway, but having that group of other parents, I think, was really helpful.
Yeah, and I think that works. And also with each other, everybody goes through stuff. Miscommunication and the differences in, you're mature in one area, you're really not mature in the other, and vice versa. And we did learn that there's really some keys to that we found out for conflict that really were important to us. One was the spiritual life. You got to have your individual spiritual life going on. And also to have, like Barbie said, a community around you. You can't go in isolation. You've got to be people who will be kind to you and support you, but also tell you the truth when you need it, whether you think you need it or not. And then we just became really fans of the short account idea. Like, don't nip this in the bud before a misdemeanor becomes a felony. So we just learned to say, that's an ouch there. Let me talk about it. We'll take some time off. We just found out early intervention is really, really helpful.
And as far as with the kids, if we came to an impasse about how we were raising them or disciplining them or whatever, those took some serious sit-down talks, like, well, I want to do it this way and you want to do it that way. Or if the kids were struggling with something, like, how are we going to approach this? We had to, both of us say what we felt and then we'll come to a compromise, because we didn't always agree 100% how to handle X, Y, or Z. And, stuff happens in junior high and high school with kids, and you've got to eventually be on the same page, but we had a lot of times where we had to discuss, no, let's do it this way, let's do it that way, or, we had some good sit downs. That was for sure.
And also, whether it was kids or just us, it was, you've got to take the beam out of your eye. Like the Bible says, search me and know me. So we try to be really good about, okay, what's my contribution here too?
Right.
And then it helped love to finally rule.
And I think we tried to model that to the kids too, to admit when we were wrong. A lot of adults have a hard time doing that, teachers, parents. And it's hard, you have to say, I was wrong about that and I'm sorry. So the apologizing, and I think what would I do different? I would have done that more.
Oh, okay.
That's good to know. That's wonderful advice. That's wonderful. Well, you talk a little bit about some of those challenges, that faced you guys, 30 plus years ago. It's not unlike still some of the challenges that face modern day couples and families today, right? Things like busyness, different cultural views on marriage. Perhaps we're seeing more today than in decades past, obviously enhances in technology as well. As you maybe look to maybe offer some advice to today's maybe younger families going through the heat of it all, what timeless biblical principles do you recommend to really help couples and their families stay centered, right? Spiritually, emotionally connected, and centered on Christ?
Well, we did a Sunday night dinner every Sunday night, and no matter what was happening, or especially when the kids got older and they had so many activities, it was you have to keep Sunday night open for family. And we sat at the table, all four of us, and we would always go around and give the highs and lows, and we'd pray. And there's one thing we always did. We said, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening," at the end, and everybody would share what God was saying to them. So that, to me, was an anchor piece that I would still recommend people as much as they can. I know it's hard with 2 jobs and kids' activities. There's so many activities, but as much as possible, even if you did it twice a month, or, just to make it a priority.
And we also had a process element in the Sunday night dinners. It was like, how's everybody doing with everybody else? Like a process group. And
Leave it to John to bring in the process group.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then, the kids would say, "Dad, you were too tough on me on this," or "Mom, you did this," or whatever. And we'd have to kind of look at ourselves and vice versa. So we wanted to make sure that they didn't have to take any conflicts in the family they couldn't talk about and act them out outside.
Yeah.
So we want to be the ones who are around with the rough stuff, so we could be there to digest it, metabolize it, bring in grace and truth. So there was that part to the prayer and the homework and the scheduling as well. It was a very important time.
Yeah, and those were critical. Yeah. They were critical, and in fact, so much so that one night our he was in high school at the time. I think it was our oldest son, or I don't know. I was older. I don't know which one it was, but we were doing this kind of process thing, and we've done this, for years. And finally goes, can we just talk about something normal? Can we just talk about sports or, girls or
Yeah.
it's working.
Yeah.
Can we talk about something normal? Yeah.
Yeah. You had a teacher mom and a shrink dad.
I don't have
And,
a chance.
it's like, how do you feel about that? And what happened then? And be specific about it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I know to pull anything substantial out of my son takes a while because he just wants to tell me about soccer at recess. And I'm like, there has to be, hopefully you learned something today, So,
Yeah.
Well, we did figure that out with boys too, because gals are so much more verbal and ahead of us and all that. And so all of our friends with daughters would say, yeah, my daughter comes home and she talks about
Shares everything.
how she likes and the school. And the boy goes, anyway, how's school? And the boy goes, good.
It's fine.
And so we thought they're not processing themselves because it's different. So Barbie said, we put a little thing together. She'd take care of the camp. And before dinner, I would take each boy or individual around the block on a walk. And they hated it at first. It was like, this is lame. I want to go be playing with my devices or whatever. I said, no, let's go. And so what we would find was that about halfway through the walk that they're complaining about, the boy would say, whichever one it was at the time, he'd say something like, I don't think the coach likes me. Or there's this girl. Or I really like something, or me and my buddy or whatever. And then we would end up back at our house. And so many times the boy would say, can we go around again?
Yeah.
Because he'd started a connection. But you know how it is. You can't be looking at each other like you can. I mean, there are exceptions to this, of course. But as long as they're looking out at the telephone poles and the cars, they can start talking about the deeper stuff. And then we'd go around the second time and the other stuff would come out. So that's kind of what worked for us.
I love it. I love that. And so I know that your son got married not too long ago, right? A little while back, but
Our younger son. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So what marriage advice did you and Barbie recently offer your son and new daughter-in-law that you might say other newlyweds would get some value out of here?
So this is the twist one. We both did a speech at the rehearsal dinner in Italy. Tough. We both had a little speech with verses and our desires and wishes and prayers for them. So that was, kind of the spiritual part of, if you want to call it advice. However,
well, we're kind of big believers in
John couldn't stop there, right?
No.
His old president of the Singles Club emceeing came back. And
Ashlie, you're going to be surprised at this.
oh, I'm ready.
I went the other way.
Oh.
Barb and I are big believers in what Genesis 2 says about growing up. It says you have to lead and cleave.
Right.
And sooner or later, really good parents fire themselves.
Yes.
So you become people without the authority, but you still got the relationship. But really, at this time, you've got a history, your family together, but you got to stop parenting because then they always take children at 40 years old.
Right. Love that.
And so we kind of felt like, and these kids were, how old were they? 31. Benny and Lily were, so Ricky,
31.
Ricky, our oldest, was 33 at the time.
Yeah, 31 and 30.
And Benny, our youngest, and his wonderful wife, Lily, were 31. And we Barbie and I kind of discussed it. Was like, well, if they ask anything about how do we do marriage, sure. But we've known them forever. We've known her since she was 4 years old. And so we figured if they had a question, that they would ask us, and they involved us in the wedding. They asked us to do a bunch of things, and they talk about marriage all the time. But we only gave advice when asked.
And the only thing is,
that's work.
John helped officiate the marriage, which was beautiful. And the talk he gave was to all of the kids their age, all of their friends that were there.
Yeah.
Not just them. It was advice or, spiritual to all of them. So it wasn't singling out Benny and Lily.
Right. So I would say to people that have kids that are getting married, certainly say, we're available. Unless you see there's a train wreck ahead. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
this guy's been in prison way too long. I'm not giving them any kind of idea. But otherwise, we're available. But the idea of the parent that needs to give advice to somebody
Right.
who's
Just
out
for the
there
sake
on their
of giving
own,
it.
well, then that's regressive And it kind of says, I don't trust you and I don't think you make it. And then the person either just reacts against it, pushes away or becomes uber dependent. So we were available if there, and they did very well.
I love
Right.
that. What a great perspective and way to do it. And you have that relationship, right? Because they're still in that newlywed stage, lots of milestones ahead of them. And I'm sure they
I
will
did do one thing.
come knocking on your door. See, I knew there was something.
We did say, one of our wedding gifts to you is 10 sessions with a marriage therapist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Premarital.
Pre-marriage. That was a big deal. And they gladly did it, and they did great. But sort of like, let's go in there. That's the only kind of parenting thing, is to say, let somebody else get inside your head and do it before you marry.
I love these stories. We have a little bit of time maybe for one more story of just this amazing 37-year marriage that you've had. And I'm sure all the amazing things you've been able to do and places to see. Maybe for each of you, what is one highlight that you think about, whether it was something related just to maybe a family vacation or happening, or maybe something more on the professional realm? Let's hear about just a fun experience you've had together.
Just generally speaking, the family vacations, no matter if they're 6 and 8 or 32 and 34, those are really special to me and, memorable, priceless. And I guess as they get older, it's even more to be able to get them together. So the family reunions, the time with the families together. We had wonderful vacations, just us two, but those times are, they're priceless.
Yeah.
Those are what I would say were the highlights for me.
I'm not sure this is a highlight, but it's pretty good. Do I have permission to talk about the time that,
Yeah.
Okay, this is just kind of funny, but it involves her. Back in the early days when everybody's crazy with having young kids and building businesses and this sort of thing, when Barbie and I would have a disagreement or whatever, the main areas, finances, lifestyle, money, I would say that, but parenting and all that stuff. And you got to work those out. You got to hash them out. These were kind of figuring those out. And Barb and I have kind of a similar and not similar families of origin. She's very Scandinavian, and they learn Scandinavia, she tells me, are not really confrontational, but more just loving and
stoic.
Yeah.
And then she marries Mr. Boundaries, right? And so whenever we have a problem, she hadn't had a lot of experience in someone being direct and it going okay. And so I would say, hey, we're spending too much money or whatever. And she goes, you're really mad at me. And I go, not really. I'm just trying to be direct. But it didn't feel good to her. It felt like, unloving and kind of harsh and this sort of thing. So I thought, I can't do that. But I said, we got to solve problems. So I wanted to learn from her and her from me. So I finally figured out, I know what I'll do. I'll give her the grace before the truth. Isn't that a new thing?
Yeah,
And so it was more like letting her know how much I care about her. And she's like the person God gave her for her life, and that I'm so happy and feel lucky to have her. And to kind of make sure that affirmation is there before you give them the directness, because the grace gives you the ability to the person to digest the truth, right? It just makes it easier. So we do that.
A lot of times. We did that a lot of times.
And so I'd come in, and if it was a problem with how we're raising the kids, I'd say, now, before we start, I am so in love with you, and I'm so glad we're together. It's so cool to be with you, and God put us together. And she'd start to feel the warmth. And then I would say, but I do have an issue. We'd work it out. But I knew that I didn't have to do that so much today, that I've been doing this so well. And it was working between us. And I came in, it was something about,
I don't remember.
Maybe the way we're spending our time or social things or whatever. And I came in and said, I just want to let you know how much I care. And she goes, just get to it.
I had enough affirmations stored up.
Your tummy.
I didn't need the front loading thing. I'm good. I know you love me. Let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't need the
love
front
that.
loading anymore.
Yeah.
I had enough affirmations stored up. That was good. That was good. Your
Yeah, I
tank
said
was full.
front-loaded before. That's pretty good.
That was
Right,
good.
right.
But in the internalization process is like, Ephesians 3 says we're supposed to be rooted and grounded in love. That's internalization. It should work that over time you can go, okay, I'm secure in our attachment. I know that you're being direct, but I still feel you inside me. It's okay. If internalizing doesn't work, you've got to reinforce nothing but grace forever and ever and ever. You got a problem. So when it gets internalized, it becomes part of the person's system. You kind of go, yeah, I know you love you. You already front loaded enough.
Yeah.
You front loaded it. We have had, I think this is just fantastic as we talk about marriage and love and everything that goes in here. We end all episodes, though, with tips. What's a takeaway tip for our listeners today that you want everyone to walk away with?
Well, I think that we mentioned it briefly, but really definitely keep short accounts and bring up what's the bothering issue as soon as possible, because then it's not festering and you're not getting ruminating about it, and that is a functional thing too, because you don't want it to get in the way of other things. It's like, let's just talk about it. And since we don't have to front load anymore, you can just, say, honey, I need to talk to you about whatever, XYZ. And we take care of it right away. We get it done at dinner or on a drive and then it doesn't build up. And then there's 15 things you need to talk about,
Right.
So to me, that's the tip I would say. Deal with it, keep short accounts, work through it as quickly as you can't always, because you could be doing something or be somewhere. It could be when he's on a trip and I'm home, but as soon as
Or at a party together.
or at a party, we have to write
Yes.
a little delay of gratification there.
Yeah, I totally think that's worked for us. And the other thing was, whenever we're speaking to couples who say, how do you get close? We want to be close. We want to be intimate. We want to be vulnerable. What we really, people get married because they want to be with someone and feel close to them. I mean, there's other reasons, spiritual and life and values, but we all want the closeness. And what we like to say is, well, closeness is really it's not the horse, it's the cart behind the horse. And if you want to be close, you got to grow. And so to say, well, we're not growing when we get close, well, you're headed for a train wreck, because closeness involves things like owning your stuff, knowing what your character is about. Are you attached? Are you able to set limits and be loving? Are you able to live with the good and the bad? Are you able to take your table as an adult and grow in all those things? Well, that's what creates chemistry and excitement and vulnerability and intimacy. So look at closeness like what happens, what you get for the hard work of growth. Be a growth monster, and then you'll become an intimacy monster. It's not the other way around. You always have to kind of because it's so counterintuitive for people. It's like, well, I just want to be close. I do too. I want ice cream too, but I got to eat my broccoli first. So do the growth work.
And we're both lifelong learners. I always tell my students, learning is lifelong. One of my students said to me, well, I was teaching Spanish to elementary kids the last 5 years. I've taught in the classroom. I've done all kinds of stuff, but I was teaching Spanish. And one of my second graders asked me a word in Spanish. And I said, you know what? I don't know that. Let me look it up. And he goes, Mrs. Townsend, you don't know all the words in Spanish? And I said, I don't know all the words in English. It's right. Right.
Yeah.
You gotta keep growing. It's lifelong learners. We always stress that with our kids. I mean, my students and our own children, but that's what we do too. It's always, I can go to this seminar, or we can pray together, or we can read something, another book. We work on individual and couple growth both.
Yeah, it's like Matthew 5. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, they shall be filled. The filling is the intimacy and closeness, but the hunger for thirst for righteousness takes work. But do it. It's worth it.
And that's it. I mean, I think that's exciting. You learn something new, you get to another level as a couple. And what's that song that we like, John Sebastian?
The great relief of having someone to talk to is the name is John Sebastian is the author of The Love and Spoonful. It's called Please Be Home Soon. We just love having each other to talk to, but we had to do the work to do that.
To get there.
That's wonderful. My gosh, this episode has just been full of so many great tips and stories and all kinds of things. It's just been so fun. We appreciate you both taking the time to sit down and to be vulnerable and tell us about all the highs and even some of the challenges that, like every couple and family out there, y'all have walked as well. So thank you so much, John and Barbie. We appreciate it. And congratulations on 37, and we wish you many, many more.
Yes,
Thank
congratulations.
you.
If you enjoy the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website at cui.edu/Townsend to find out more about the certificates, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University, Irvine. With programs in mental health counseling, executive coaching and consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all the while furthering your competence, character, and connection. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.
I was curious, how long when you started dating Barbie did they make you step down as the president of the singles club?